All right,
Look
so
at my email.
great. So just so you guys all know,
Get to
um,
it.
Yeah,
the
sure email.
Toledo Zoo is having these fantastic programs where they're taking virtual tours of their zoo. And so we signed up with them to take a look at the aquarium, and we're going to get a chance to see the fish. You see them there, and to find out how they take care of the fish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spotlight the Toledo Zoo. So hopefully what this will do is it'll bring it up large on your screen. Can I have a thumbs up if everybody's getting that? Okay, fantastic. So what we'll do is once Timothy and Alex start their tour, we'll ask everyone to go ahead and mute yourself, so that we can hear everything that Alex and Timothy are telling us about the Toledo Zoo. And then we when we have questions and things like that, you guys can unmute yourself and we can ask questions. Okay.
Okay.
So I want to thank Bellbrook Senior Living in Rochester Hills for sponsoring our adventure at the Toledo Zoo today. Carrie Cater is a great, their business development marketing director. And I've known Carrie for several years, and she's such an advocate for seniors and for members of the OPC. So welcome, Bellbrook. I can see all you over there. It's so good to see, and I can't wait for you guys to come back and be at the OPC. And for everyone that's joining us today from home, a lot of you are coming into the OPC still and joining us here at our new activities. We got great things planned for you virtually and on site. So take a look at your newsletter. So we'll continue to bring you as much as we can, things like this. We're so lucky to be together. So thank you, Bellbrook. And Bellbrook has a special deal that they're going to talk about after our presentation today. So stay tuned, and Carrie will tell you a special thing she has to tell you about a meal kit to go for all of you. All right, Alex and Timothy, are you guys getting ready to go?
Hello. Lost your audio video.
Yes, we are, I believe someone is sharing their screen, and I think that is...
Oh, okay.
David Harlan.
How do I? Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, I thought that was you, Timothy.
No.
All right.
That's okay. All right, so we are ready to go if everybody is ready to go. So yes, hello everybody. My name is Timothy. I'm joined here with Alex, and we are today... Hello, yeah, we are today in the aquarium, and let me go ahead and flip the camera on my device around so that I can show you guys our largest tank. This is our 90,000 gallon tank. So not the biggest aquarium in the world, but very large, certainly. And so we actually have dozens of species of fish that live in here, and they coexist peacefully. And now you might see there are some large fish swimming around. You might recognize some sharks, the black-tip reef sharks, as well as zebra sharks in this tank. And so a lot of times we get questions, don't the sharks eat the smaller fish? And so what we do here at the aquarium is we make sure that all of our fish are properly fed. So sharks aren't malicious, they just need to eat meat. So as long as we provide them with the meat, then these smaller fish are absolutely fine. So we have in here, as you can see, a replica of a lot of coral. So this is a coral reef tank. And coral reefs are found around the world, of course, in oceans. And so one thing that we have to make sure we take care of here is keeping this tank clean. And so we actually will have divers in wetsuits with scuba gear come into the tank while it's still filled, and they will clean, they will feed. One thing we like to do is when it is time to feed, we will actually take the food and bring it to the bottom of the tank. That way, it's not just that the food is released at the top, and only the fish that swim near the top can get something to eat. Now, of course, we also bring up the fact that each of these fish, as you can see, here's one right there. Each of these fish have specific needs, and though a lot of them eat the same foods, there are a lot of things inside of the water that need to be kept at a specific level. So for example, different fish need different levels of oxygen in the water. They need different levels of nitrogen in the water, and they need different temperatures of water. And so of course, the fish here, oh, this one wants to say hello. Of course, the fish here, being from a coral reef, live in salt water. And so this is a saltwater tank, but lots of our tanks are freshwater as well. All right, does anybody have any questions about the 90,000 gallon tank? I unfortunately, if people are raising hands, I can't see them.
If you have a question, you can unmute yourself and ask it. But I think we're just kind of all acclimating to the movement of your camera, Timothy. So
Okay.
if you could just stay on something a little bit longer, I think it'll help.
Oh yeah, my apologies.
All right, no, don't be sorry.
I'll go
I
ahead and-
love it.
Yeah, so sharks, as you can see, that these sharks that like to swim around, they do like to be on the top. And so you can see the black-tipped reef sharks. A lot of people, when they come in here, they ask if they're great white sharks because they have a big resemblance to them. And they aren't, but their resemblance to them serves the same purpose. So the fish that are below the great white shark, as well as the black-tipped reef shark, they see that white belly, and so that helps them blend in with the sun. But if you're a fish that's above these sharks, there's the dark overcoat, and that helps them blend in with the shadows. So these sharks will usually swim closer to the surface, but if they swim below fish, that's not a problem either. The zebra shark, this one likes to swim up and down. Oh yeah, they do like, we do have snorkelers who come in during during our Lights Before Christmas month. We will have a Santa dive, and we'll have an individual dressed in a Santa suit come into the tank, and it's a big hit with a lot of children. Now let me see. Yeah, all right. So I am going to hand it over to Alex, who's going to talk to you guys a little bit about the types of fish that we have both in this aquarium and that we don't. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to him. Alex?
Thanks, Timothy. Hello, everybody. I'm Alex. I even wore my shark mask and theme for today. So welcome to the aquarium and welcome to the Ocean Lab, which is the section I'm currently hanging out at in the aquarium. So the Ocean Lab, is Timothy inferred, is a space that is a little bit different from that big reef tank you guys were just taking a peek at. We have a few highlight invertebrate species here. And I also have some biofacts, some animal artifacts that I can show off to you guys here. So let me switch my camera around to show you a little bit about some of the animals we have in this space. As I said, we have some marine invertebrates, so some animals without a backbone, as well as some smaller fish, the only vertebrates that are in here. And I'll highlight a couple of these guys here as we go, but I also brought up some biofacts here. So let me show off a couple of these since they relate to what we were just speaking about. So we've got some shark biofacts here. So right here, this is some shark skin. It may be tough to see over the zoom, but this is a very textured skin, a lot different from ours. It's very sandpapery in texture, and it is covered in some scales called denticles, which are called such because under a microscope, they actually look like little teeth. So if you were to kind of stroke the skin of a shark from head to tail, it would feel very smooth and streamlined and helps them swim faster through the water. As Timothy said, those sharks of all shapes and sizes are pretty much built to go faster through the water. If you went against the grain, it would actually be rough and coarse like sandpaper. It could even cut. Of course, the things that sharks really have that can allow them to cut and deal some damage to their prey is their teeth. So this is a set of jaws. This is a real set of teeth and jaws of a mako shark, which is a smaller cousin of the great white shark. It's in the mackerel shark family. And this is the fastest swimming shark in the sea. These guys are able to swim at about 30 to 40 miles per hour. So they're one of the fastest moving water animals that we know of. And you can tell a lot about a shark and really any animal based on its teeth. We can get a clue as to what its diet is. So these mako sharks have these curved, kind of almost fishhook shaped teeth. And that indicates that the thin, sharp, curved teeth are more for eating fish. So these guys aren't going to bother too much with turtles or seals or large mammals. They are going to go specifically after fish, using that speed to be able to catch them. Something like a great white or one of its ancient cousins, this is a replica of a megalodon tooth. This was the largest shark that ever lived. You can see this tooth is very differently shaped. It's a very big, thick, triangular spear, and it has serrations on it. And that's because megalodons actually preyed upon small whales. Their modern day cousins, the great white, prey upon seals and large fish like tuna. And then, of course, some of the sharks we met, like the zebra shark, are more bottom feeders, and they actually have jaws that have more just kind of bumped grooves on them to help them crunch crabs and rays. And that's akin to some of the sharks that we might see at the tank that Timothy is at now. One more thing I just want to point out before I pass it back to him is that sharks have unlimited teeth. You can see here in the mako shark jaw that they always have a set of rows behind in reserve. They're losing their teeth constantly because they don't really chew their food. They just kind of tear it apart. And that process loosens and yanks out these teeth all the time, which is why it can be pretty easy to find shark teeth around a beach setting. So these guys are always growing new teeth and always able. So they're always reloading for the next bite of their prey. And we can now head back to our aquarium exhibitry to see some more sharks and other animals, courtesy of Timothy. Take it away, Timothy.
Yeah, thank you. So hello, everybody again. I am here at our Gulf of Mexico tank. So this is the tank where, of course, the animals from the Gulf live. And so the Gulf of Mexico is saltwater. So again, this is a saltwater tank. However, it's comparatively low in salinity when you look at the Gulf of Mexico and compare it to the rest of the ocean. So this is salty water, but it's not the most salty that our water can get. Now, we have a lot of fish in here, and we also have one animal that's not a fish, who we'll get to in a little bit. But first, let's talk about our fish. As you can see, we've got a large assortment of rays in here. We've got spotted rays, we've got bullnose rays. And so rays, of course, which, there you go. I think that they're very beautiful animals, very graceful. They almost look like they're flying underwater. They are cartilaginous fish. So just like how a shark has, in place of hard bones, it has cartilage, the same is the case for our rays. So one of the reasons that it can bend its body like that, almost make it look like it's flapping, is that in place of hard bones, it has cartilage. So just like what we have around our ears and nose, it's much more flexible, allows them to move their body in ways that they wouldn't be able to it's actually feeding time right now. So you can see a lot of them are kind of just moving in circles, looking for what type of food they want the most. A lot of animals keep on taking a little bite of that section of fish and then moving on. So we also have in here this, you might think it looks a little familiar if you've heard of a hammerhead shark. This is a smaller cousin of that. It's actually called a bonnet head shark. As you can see, it's very similar. So of course, some sharks are just too large or too aggressive to keep in an aquarium, especially with other fish. But there are still plenty of large fish like this. I believe this is the bull-nosed ray, who can be very large, but still spend a lot of time being peaceful with other fish. Oh, and here we go. There you go. That one just ate some shrimp. It prefers the shrimp to the fish, apparently. All right. Now, over here is one of my favorite animals in the entire aquarium, and in fact, the entire zoo. But it might be a little difficult to see her. So there is a net up there. That large black mass is a net, and inside of that net is our sea turtle. And I can't even see her right now. So we might have to come back later when she's done eating. But she has the coolest story in the aquarium. Her name is Tink, and she is a green sea turtle who is, and I'll go ahead and move over here so you guys can see these guys eat a little bit, because they are going crazy for what was just dropped in. So our green sea turtle, Tink, is actually a rescue. So a lot of fish that you'll see in aquariums, in fact, I'd say most, were born in an aquarium, but Tink was born in the wild, and then she was hit by a boat, and she developed a condition where a pocket of air filled up in her back, and the name of this condition, and it's not a joke, is called bubble butt. And when that air pocket forms and the shell heals over it, it actually creates a sort of buoyancy inside of the turtle. So she could not survive in the wild because she would constantly be going, the backside of her body would constantly be drifting upwards. But she can survive in here because she doesn't have to worry about moving up and down too much. And when it's time to feed her, as you can see, we can keep her in a little net to make sure that she gets all the food she needs. She eats lettuce primarily. So when green sea turtles are born, they are omnivores. But once they are fully grown, they're the only sea turtle to be an herbivore, which means, of course, eating only plants. I'll go ahead and hold it on this screen for a little bit. If anybody would like to type out in the chat a question or an observation, or if anybody would like to unmute, where did Tink come from? That's a good question. So Tink was given to us by I believe, an animal rescue service. And I also believe that Tink was from the Gulf of Mexico. So this is our Gulf of Mexico tank, of course. So all of these fish that she gets along with, and sometimes is a little bit of a rascal. Sometimes she likes to bite on the tails of our rays, which doesn't hurt them, but it can be annoying. But so all of these fish are fish that she would meet in the wild. Are there any seahorses in your aquarium? Yes, we do have seahorses in our aquarium. And since you asked, I'll make sure that we get to them later in the program. All right, I'm gonna hand it back over to Alex, who I believe is going to show you guys some of our invertebrates.
Yeah, thanks, Timothy. So just to verify what Timothy said, Tink was rescued from the Gulf of Mexico area. She was rescued in Florida, initially by one of SeaWorld's rescue teams, and then brought to a facility in Florida. Florida also has a number of turtle rescue facilities, including the one that still holds the original turtle that was found with that condition, who was named Bubble Butt, which is why that condition is named that. It's actually named after a specific turtle. Now, as Timothy said, I'm going to show you guys some of our invertebrates. You can see from the drawings behind me, we highlight some of our invertebrates like our echinoderms. So I'll do that now. And here we can see a biofact of a very famous echinoderm. So this is a sea star. sea stars come in all different sizes and even different shapes of stars. We tend to think of them as the traditional kind of 5-pointed star like this, but there are some that have dozens of legs on them. And something that's interesting is that on each leg of a sea star is actually a small eye spot. Now, it's not quite the same eye as us. Obviously, they're not seeing in color like we are, but they are able to see shadow and the changes in light and dark. So they can tell when it's daytime and nighttime, and they can also tell when something kind of passes over them, and if they need to kind of scoot out of the way. And they have one of those eye spots on the tip of each leg. So this one with 5 legs had 5 eye spots. Another interesting thing is that sea stars, most of their mechanics are on the underside. Since they are primarily bottom feeders, they have their mouth on the bottom in the middle, and that mouth actually opens up to release their stomach, which looks like kind of an orange blob that comes out of their body and wraps around their food. So they kind of come out, wrap it around what they're eating, and then slurp it back in as they are digesting it. So if you ever visit our ocean lab here and see a sea star with kind of some orange goopy stuff coming out of it, that is because it is eating. Now here we can see one of those sea stars up close. This guy is called a chocolate chip sea star, and that's because he actually has these kind of patterns that look like chocolate chips. So he is an aptly named sea star, and we'll flip him over here, and you can see he's got his mouth in the middle. Obviously, he's not eating right now, but what he is doing is showing off his many feet. So he's got these legs or arms, as I said, that each have an eye spot at the end, but he also has these purple suction cup feet that he's got dozens, even hundreds of, and that's what these guys use to latch onto rocks, or in this case, aquarium glass, and that's what they use to move. So when they move, they don't usually move too quickly, but it looks like they're just kind of gliding across the bottom there. Now, they are not the only ones with this adaptation. As I said, they're from a group of invertebrates called echinoderms, and one of their close cousins are these. This is a sea urchin. This is called a pencil sea urchin, and he also has a lot of the same similarities. His mouth is on the bottom. He eats in the same manner, and he also has kind of hair-like looking tube feet, but he's got tube feet on his body too to help him move. Now, of course, in addition to that, he's also got these spiky spines that he can move around and even walk with, similar to legs. Now, this is a pencil sea urchin. These are harmless to people, which is why they're a great addition to our touch tanks. But there are some species of sea urchins in the wild that actually carry venom and can inject it via those spines. So some of the more colorful sea urchins, as well as some of the more colorful sea stars, which can be poisonous, have some of those warning color adaptations to let you know not to mess with them. And coming into frame here is another one of our undersea animals. This is originally the shell of a sea snail, but of course, after the snails pass away, the shell remains, and other animals like this little hermit crab can make use of it. So this is a species of aquatic or marine hermit crab. They're a little different from the ones you might find in the pet store, which are more terrestrial. So there are hermit crabs that both live in the water and hermit crabs that live on the land. This guy prefers to be in the water. Now, something that's cool is that he's not going to pinch me. He's not trying to, he knows I'm bigger. What he's doing, if you can see, is he's actually trying to just get me to let him go. So he is putting a little pressure on me, but it's really just trying to be like, hey, move your finger, let me walk around again. So these guys aren't really setting out to hurt people. However, some of their larger crab cousins are definitely animals that pound for pound have a much stronger pinch than I would prefer to feel. So definitely don't recommend just picking up any old crab. All right, well, now that we've seen our invertebrate live animals, I'll send it back to Timothy to see the next tank on our docket.
Yeah, so we are here at our Amazon River tank. And real quick, I'd like to answer some questions that we have. So for our sea turtle tank, so what happened was she was injured and she was found swimming in the water. And then, so believe it or not, she was actually hit by a boat twice. The first time that she was hit, she was able to recover partially. But when she was released back into the wild, she was released with a tracker. And so that tracker allowed us to see where she was using GPS. But when she was released the second time, all of a sudden we noticed that she was swimming in a circle, just a very small circle, and she wasn't moving from that circle. And so well, I should say the rescue teams, their people went out to check what happened, and it turned out she was hit by another boat. And at that point, she could not survive in the wild by herself. So we are here, like I said, at our Amazon River tank. And so the Amazon River is the first freshwater tank that we're looking at today. So of course, all of these fish do not breathe in salt when they breathe in. Interestingly enough, this very large fish right here, the arapaima, one of the biggest fish that we have here at the Toledo Zoo Aquarium, and I believe our biggest fish that is not a shark. This is one of a few types of fish in the world that will actually breathe atmospheric oxygen. So the Amazon River is famous for having a relatively low amount of oxygen. So a lot of fish will have to get away from parts of the river when oxygen goes down. Not the arapaima, because the arapaima has a modified swim bladder, which is well, it does exactly what it sounds like. It's a bladder that helps animals swim, but they can actually use their swim bladder as a makeshift lung. So what they will do is they will go to the surface of the water and they will gasp in air. And I've never heard it, but I have read that it is a very loud noise when they do. And so they can actually breathe water that is in the air and then return to the water and continue hunting in low oxygen areas. Now, another animal that needs oxygen, of course, is this guy, our giant South American turtle. So we have a lot of, we have a lot of turtles who have, of course, a need to breathe atmospheric oxygen, because all sea turtles and river turtles are reptiles, which means that they, of course, need to breathe air. So all of our tanks that have turtles in them have plenty of space for them to go up to breathe air. Oh, I just missed it. As you can see, the arapaima is now breathing bubbles out of his mouth because he just went up for a big gulp of air. But yeah, so the other thing I brought up in the chat, that Tink, were she in the wild, she would come to shore to lay her eggs. All reptiles lay their eggs on land, so that's one of many reasons why it's difficult to have sea turtles breed in captivity. We wouldn't want to do that for Tink for, again, that reason and plenty of others. Now, of course, I want to get you guys to be able to see the seahorse. I know you also wanted to see our Great Lakes tank. So I'm going to hand it over to Alex, who will show you guys the seahorse, and I will head over to the Great Lakes tank.
All right, thanks, Timothy. Yeah, so let me flip my camera back around here and show you guys our seahorse tank. So these are some of our seahorses. You can see that they prefer to live a bit of a sedentary lifestyle. Seahorses, like some of our jellies, are animals that literally go with the flow. These guys are spending most of their time anchoring themselves with their specialized tails to the sea grass or rocks around them. Something that's really interesting is that these are fish. This is just a very specialized species or group of animals that look quite different from most of the fish that we're accustomed to seeing, that traditional fish body design. But this is just a highlight of how You know, animals have evolved to have many different adaptations to suit their environments and needs. So in this case, the seahorses have those longer kind of prehensile finger-like tails that allow them to wrap on to anchor themselves so they don't drift away. They've also got the long noses and heads, which resemble the horses that they're named after. And one of the coolest things about them is that these animals have a unique birthing ritual in that most seahorse species, the females will lay their eggs in kind of a almost kangaroo pouch like attachment on the males, and the males will carry those eggs and will give birth, in quotes, to those babies. So you can often hear that, oh, male seahorses are one of the only animals where the boys are pregnant. It's not quite the same as a true female pregnancy, but the males do take on the role of fatherhood for that initial round and are the ones who are actually carrying those eggs before they're born. So that's something that's really kind of cool about these animals. And of course, as I said, they have these really cool specialized tails you can see that wrap around to prevent them from getting drifted away. Since they are small fish, there's not too many large seahorses. Some species, like some leafy sea dragons, are specially adapted to camouflage really well in the coral reefs and among some of the vegetation that they live in and around to further aid them in their survival. All right, well, it looks like Timothy's at our final tank, so I'll send it back to him one more time for you guys to meet some of our more local fish.
Yeah, so here is where you guys might have seen some of these in the wild. Although I don't know your guys' history, maybe you guys are big Gulf of Mexico explorers, but these guys you can find here in our Great Lakes. And so we've got a wide variety. You can see that we have some of our native bass, some of our native catfish. We've got, of course, the walleye here in Toledo. We love the walleye. It's one of our biggest, most important fish in terms of economics. But we also have another one of my favorites. I know I keep saying I have a favorite in most of these tanks. I say that because it's true. We have our lake sturgeon. So the lake sturgeon is a very large fish when it is fully grown. When it starts out, when it's a baby, it's about the size of your fingernail. But when fully grown, and these guys are not even fully grown yet, they can be over 10 feet long, which is enormous. So definitely the largest thing that you can find in Lake Erie. Well, that's natural, of course. Now, lake sturgeon were actually extirpated from Lake Erie, meaning that there used to be a lot of lake sturgeon in Lake Erie, but humans actually hunted them to existence. So sturgeon are, of course, known for caviar, and so that's part of why they were hunted, but they also produce a lot of oil. So back when lamp oil was a big commodity, they were hunted for that. And then they were also hunted because they were seen as a nuisance animal. So we actually at the Toledo Zoo have begun to help recover their numbers in Lake Erie. I believe we've released something in the range of 4,000 lake sturgeon into the wild. As you can see, some of the lake sturgeon, like that one, have a dark gray or brown color. And then some of them have a light color. Some of them are actually white. I don't think we have a white one here in this tank. But all of those different colors of sturgeon allow them to blend in with different parts of the lake surface. So this tank is a great example of the beauty and diversity that you can see in our Great Lakes. And hopefully, with enough time, we'll get some of these lake sturgeon back into Lake Erie, and they'll grow to the size where they don't really have to worry about any predators. All right, so unfortunately, I would love to spend as much time with you guys as I can, but I do have another program in a little bit. But before we wrap up, I would love to take any questions that anybody has about anything we saw today or anything. Yes, Paul, that's a good question. So the Great Lakes themselves are relatively new. But how did the fish get there? And that's a good question, especially because lake sturgeon are actually one of the most ancient fish in the world. So a lake sturgeon I believe it's around 150 million years old in terms of the fossil record.
250 million years old, in fact.
Oh, yeah. So, they've been around longer than the Great Lakes have. But when the Great Lakes were formed, due to the glaciation and then the filling of the water, obviously a lot of fish that used to live in these sort of the benthic areas of the ocean that were not so saline at the time were able to filter in through all of the new passageways that were made in the wake of that glaciation. What was the unicorn fish you pointed out in the beginning? Good question. That is our unicorn fish. So yeah, you're absolutely right. The unicorn fish has that almost horn-like growth on the front of its head. It's not a horn in the sense that you've got animals like a cattle or well, I was going to say a rhino, but technically a rhino doesn't have a horn either. It has a keratinous growth. But it's sort of a bony growth, I believe, which is almost like a spongy material, if I'm remembering correctly. But yeah, they don't use it to fight, but I believe it has something to do with, well, actually, Alex, do you know why they have their horn?
I think it's a matter of some ongoing research. A beautiful thing, even here with some of the animals we have at the zoo, is we don't know every single aspect of their lives. So it's one of those things that could be for a mating display. It could be for some sort of kind of dominance display. But I believe you're correct on the anatomical makeup of that kind of spongy growth. And that's something that here at our zoo and other aquariums and research in the wild, we're still assessing and learning about these animals all the time.
Yeah. All right, so I saw two questions. One, what was the third reason that the sturgeons are hunted? The third one is they were seen as a nuisance. So like fishermen would go out looking for walleye and they would find a sturgeon and they'd be like, well, I don't want a sturgeon, I want a walleye. A walleye has good meat. A sturgeon, it's kind of oily. So they would just kill the sturgeon because that's not what they wanted. And then Bellbrook would like to know, are most fish eating the same meal? So we have a relatively similar diet for a lot of the fish. So most fish are animals that will eat microorganisms, and then different fish like to eat different types of microorganisms. Some animals like to eat micro animals or like animals like zooplankton, which zooplankton, now that I say it, I don't think is actually an animal, but it's a microorganism that behaves like an animal, hence the prefix of zoo. But then some animals will only eat herbivorous microorganisms like phytoplankton, green algae, that type of thing. But there is a lot of shared diet for a lot of our animals. But then there are some animals that have a very specific diet. And then, as you saw earlier, some animals get larger pieces of fish, and shrimp is a big ticket item. All right, let's see. When Steve Irwin died by ray stinger, do the rays die after they shot their stinger? I don't believe so, no. A lot of times when we think of an animal dying after shooting their stinger, we think of bees. And so honeybees actually are the only type of bee that will die after using their stinger. A bumblebee, a carpenter bee, they can sting you and they'll be just fine. But a honeybee, they actually, when they sting, part of their intestines are ripped out with the stinger. So yeah, I don't know the mechanism of how a sting is removed from the ray, but I do know that it does not rip out part of their body. So I believe that a ray can sting and be just fine. Alex, do you know more about that?
I believe you're right. I was going to say the same thing about the bees. yeah, usually when we think of stinging, we think of like a honeybee in the garden. For most other animals, stinging components are more attached to their body, and for those rays, it's often a large barb. So stinger isn't, even though we call them stingrays, it's more truly a barb, and that is something that's able to be filed down in places like captive areas here, but in the wild, if they sting something with it, it rarely, I would say, would actually do any damage to the ray itself. So most likely, most rays do not suffer any great injury after they sting.
But thank you for making me sad by reminding me of Steve Irwin's death. I'm just kidding. But yeah, so thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for your questions. And I hope you guys were able to have a good time seeing a lot of our exhibits. Hopefully you learned a couple of things as well. And I hope we will be able to see you guys for one of these again.
Well,
That
we
be
would
fun.
love it. Thank you, Timothy. Thank you, Alex. You guys are amazing. We love your spirit and how excited you get talking about fish. So keep taking care of them. We count on you guys.
Huh. Thank you very much. You guys have a great rest of your day.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
you.
Goodbye.
Thanks. Bye, guys. Thank you so much. All right. So you guys can unmute anybody that wants to. And we'll hear a little message from our sponsor for today's program, Carrie Cater from Bellbrook. She has a special message for y'all.
Hi,
Thank you. This
everyone.
was great. Hi.
Hi, I am talking to you from Bellbrook's Independent Living
I
Room
don't
with.
want to hear this, so I'm going to get the rest of the stuff going. So I can.
So we're really excited to be able to work with the OPC and sponsor this event. We really want to thank the Toledo Zoo, Alex and Timothy for their time today, as well as Mary Ann's hard efforts to make sure that the seniors in Rochester have things to keep busy with and, keeping us learning. So thank you so much, Mary Ann, for that. Bellbrook wants to invite you to a program that we're hosting. We are on Wednesday, February 24th, we are hosting a dinner kit to go. It's an opportunity to just drive up to the community and take home a prepared meal that you will finish cooking in your own home. We're offering a stir-fry dinner. We have choices of vegetable, shrimp, or chicken stir-fry. We do require an RSVP in order to participate so that we can have a planned meal available for you. Our RSVP deadline for our dinner kit to go is February 19th. So that's next Friday. And again, we'd love to have anyone as our special guest for that. Mary Ann's going to be kind enough to send an email out to you and so you can have that information in writing. But we hope everybody can have an enjoyable afternoon. Certainly stay warm. Those fish are in some nice warm tanks. So we're hoping we can kind of stay warm inside too. I know we're all toasty here at Bellbrook. And, again, just have a great afternoon. And Mary Ann, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to host. And we will hopefully see everybody soon.
All right. Thank you, Carrie. And hello and goodbye, Bellbrook. Thank you for being with us today. And for all of you, I know that I'm planning on picking up my meal kit from Bellbrook. What a great idea. It's going to be all the ingredients you need to make your own stir fry at home. And I think it's going to come with some directions, hopefully, because I'm not the greatest cook. So,
Simple included.
okay, we got directions included. So that'll be fun. So I will email everybody the information you need to RSVP. And all you're going to have to do is on that day, you're going to drive up to Bellbrook and pick up your meal to go kit. So I hope you all take advantage of that. And then afterwards, maybe you could snap a picture of how your stir fry came out and send it to me. And I'll forward them on to Carrie and show them what good cooks we have at OPC. All right. All right. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.